And so we did get a meeting with Jay. It was kind of, it was amazing. And when they first asked, they asked, oh, can we send this interim? Jay asked this one guy that he knew that knew some of our people and knew some 350 Seattle people and said, hey, can you talk to them? And then they can talk to the protectors and see if they can get them to lay off. And maybe I could have a meeting with them, this interim guy. And but our friend was wise enough, and she said, nope, no way. That's what the government always does that. They send a lesser to meet up, and then they say, oh, we met with them. See you later. And so we said, no, we will only meet with Jay Inslee, period. And then when that time came and he agreed, and then we told them that, well, we not only us will meet with them with Jay, but Puyallup Water Warriors need a separate meeting. And so we did get 2 separate meetings within a 2-hour time period with him. So in the 3 years that you know, they worked to make positive change there on their territory, they couldn't get a meeting, but we did manage to do it, and you know, it didn't produce any fruit. You know, I got almost some tears out of that man's eyes from the words I shared with him. He had his glasses off and he was welling up, but he refused to declare climate emergency. And he can do it. I told him after all his excuse, he did spend the time to retort, but I quickly wrote down every retort and addressed them as right before he left, and discredited every single one. And he said, well, I've been doing this 25 years. And I wrote a book on this. And I said, well, 25 years ago, you didn't hold this position of importance and power. Now you do. Now you need to do something about it to bring a future for our children and yours. And you know, he gave other excuses like, you know, his original excuses was it was illegal for him. Everything we asked for was illegal after we occupied the first time. And then we'd hold a huge rally like 3 weeks later on the steps. There was so much pressure that he had to address this. And then he said, everything we asked for is illegal. And so we did a bunch of research, and we found that he can draft a resolution and declare a climate emergency in his own resolution. We know that's true. And I told him that. And then the only way that a special session for the 2020 could have been drawn and called for was by him. So we know that that was also legal. And so it was, you know, we didn't produce anything from that, but we did get the meeting, and we're still moving forward. But we're still moving forward on how to stop the Tacoma LNG plant, because that, you know, as fracking installments worldwide probably, but for sure in the United States and Canada, I read in the United States have been shutting down at about 2/3 rate. So yeah, you know, this pandemic that we're going through is terrible and nightmarish for many families. We acknowledge that. And prayers up for each and every one of those people. Prayers up for every single one. And because each one of those numbers that you see is a life and a creation of the Creator. You know, Donald Trump's trying to basically say he's done a great job and it's China's fault now. What a madman. When we have 25% of the world, more than 25%, that's moving up, more than 25% of the world's deaths from COVID-19, and we only make up 4% of the world's population. That's that man's idea of a great job. What a madman. Anyway, beyond insanity, as some of our, I've heard like some people say. Yeah, we're still working on all of those things, Tacoma LNG and climate emergency, and And we're not going to stop until we get a future for life on Mother Earth and our children. So we're really thankful for all the support that we've gotten, and all of the strength of the people that have come forward and recognized that this is the time to stand up for our mother, to stand up for our children, because the world is changing so fast that I used to say that we're doing this for our grandchildren and their grandchildren beyond them, but I won't even say that anymore because it's no longer true. The world has changed so fast within a few years that I will only say we're doing this for our children right now, because they will not have a peaceful future at all. They will not have a good future at all until we resolve this thing. And even then, that future is still going to be rough. So we know that the world is changing exponentially. And we know that the scientists are right and their models were all wrong. They're all very conservative models, and not one climate model was right. They were all blown out of the water by reality of a dying Mother Earth at the hand of colonialism and the hand of greed and foolishness and selfishness and backwardsness. That we need to start listening to ancient wisdom and knowledge and decide that we're gonna work in a harmonious way, a holistic way, a spiritual way with all life and all people, and decide that the equity that we have, that we don't have right now, even amongst humans, needs to change. But even beyond that, the equity that we had amongst all beings, even water. I'll share one quick story before we take off, but my mom, as I said, was born in the longhouse, and so open fires, earth floors, cedar plank walls, holes in the ceiling to let the smoke out, smoke holes. And she heard a lot of beautiful teachings of our people, and her mama shared some really beautiful things. When my grandma would bring my mom to the water, the name of our creek in Saanich and Shotla, West Saanich in particular, is Quinnis, and it means gray whale. That's the name of the creek that my mom would go to every morning as she was a girl, and her mom would bring her there to bathe, and every morning, no matter what time of the year. And but her mama wouldn't just say, "You kids get in the water." She would never do that. My mom said every morning my grandma would bend down and she'd gently touch the surface of the water, and she'd speak to the water in our language. Haiska siem hachatanan kwa haiska kom na sli nas stlikas esla siem hachakwa, sacred water. And she touched it, and she would speak to its spirit, its Sali, and say, "I do not come." My mom translates the words, "I do not come here to disturb you, sacred healing cold water. I would only ask that you strengthen the Sali, the spirit of my children." And not until she spoke to the spirit of that water would she allow her children to go into the body of that living being. And I tell children and people when I share that, I say, that's called a good relationship, my family. That is called a good relationship. Have a good relationship with every single being, every single people, because even water is a people. It has consciousness. It has a soul. It was created by the Creator. The Creator created everything with intention, as we should be creating everything with intention. So if you're to think about one thing, if we can get people to think about one thing, I would ask them to learn how to create every single thing that you do with intention, every action, because then you know what you are doing. You will not inherently do something that is going to harm. And so, and I say we've had a good relationship with every being for tens of thousands of years, and something to think about, even with water. So, yeah, does anyone have any questions or about the work that we've been doing, or any things that, that I was speaking about? But I don't know if we can unmute. But yeah, we're still moving forward, and as I was saying, COVID-19 has really put the brakes on oil, and we have to think about that. We have to think about the abuse that colonialism has delivered our Mother Earth, has delivered our people. The people, it's amazing how people don't seem to have the care for the creations of the Creator, or even human life, that they wouldn't want equity for them. They wouldn't want them to have, you know, clean water and access to good food, and access to a way of caring for themselves medically, and so that they feel safe and secure. But as COVID-19 has made the whole world go to the corner of the room and think about what they've done, you know, as the world has been colonized mostly, we see that indeed it has given our Mother Earth a break, even though it is very, very hard for so many people, and prayers for them. But our Mother Earth is fighting back. And when mankind destroys a forest, and those animals and the bats have to get closer to other animals when they shouldn't have, because there was perfect harmony in that forest. And now they move towards other animals, and now the humans have moved closer to them. And now the animal makes a bridge to the human with a virus, which recently they said there's 2.7 million, estimated 2.7 million viruses in nature, in the natural kingdom. And this COVID-19 is only one. So, you know, what we're doing to Mother Earth has a repercussion. And that's just the truth.
Paul?
Yeah.
Excuse me, this is beautiful what you're saying. I apologize for having to interrupt, but in terms of time, we have a couple of questions.
Sure, good. I was asking.
And one of them was, let me see here. Are there things that people can be doing remotely or online right now to support the water warriors? We're running out of time, but maybe if you could briefly address that. And there's one other one. Can you or anyone else recommend any books about indigenous governance, elders, gender roles, etc.?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Puyallup Water Warriors. You can go to their Facebook page, like that, follow that, and pay attention to what they're doing. So I don't know if they have a website. I don't think they do. We work with them too. Protectors of the Salish Sea is the organization I started after Standing Rock. You can like our page or go to protectorsofthesalishsea.org. So they do have a petition. You can find their petition. I'm sure you can find out on their Facebook page. Also, we have a petition also for Jay Inslee to declare climate emergency. You can find that on our Facebook, or particularly the .org webpage. Yeah, I think just keeping our ear to the ground and listening and showing up when we can in what way we can is important, and open our mouths and share. Our people prophesied that as our teachings lived in one longhouse, and they didn't leave that house because we never colonized anybody. And you can, the language proves it. We have isolate and language, total language changes about every 50 miles here, which means we didn't push our way on nobody. And so in the longhouse, you got one teaching, you know, and one way of their spirituality, just in one house with many families, many families. They're huge houses, though. Some of them were, you know, 7 fires, and you had, you know, 12 families living in one. So we learned to live easy on Mother Earth, and Coast Salish was highly populated. Most people think, oh, it must have been like it is now. There's no Indians. Well, we were nearly wiped out, my family. So anyway, yeah, they prophesied. They said someday these teachings will leave this one house, and it's our responsibility to open our mouth and share what we've learned about caring for our environment, our Mother Earth, and our futures, and that day will come when we must open our mouth and share what we've learned. So that's one way we can do it.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one other question. I'm going to leave that to the end, though, because we need to move on. But thank you, Paul. This has been very moving and touching. I just, so you can be thinking about it at the end, I would say, what can we do to stop the LNG pipeline when we are in Oregon outside the violated area? But think about that, and then we'll get back to it later.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next we have, thank you very much.